Today, I want to explore a truth that most of us are unwilling to confront: the lies we tell ourselves. Not the obvious, harmless fabrications, but the subtle, invisible myths we cling to about our own nature, our intentions, and our society. To uncover this, we turn to Niccolò Machiavelli, the Renaissance thinker whose name has been synonymous with cunning politics, but whose insights reach far beyond rulers and kingdoms. Machiavelli was not merely a strategist of power. He was a psychologist of human nature, someone who dared to examine what drives us at our core and the uncomfortable truths we usually avoid. Machiavelli's hidden law of human nature is deceptively simple. People are fundamentally self-interested, and yet we consistently deceive ourselves into believing otherwise. We craft narratives that paint ourselves as noble, moral, or rational, even when our actions betray these illusions. Understanding this law is not cynicism, it is clarity. It allows us to navigate life with eyes wide open, to anticipate both the behaviors of others and the hidden impulses within ourselves. Consider one of Machiavelli's most famous observations in The Prince. He writes, "Men are driven by two principal impulses, either by love or by fear." But he does not stop at mere observation. He explains that humans often claim to act out of virtue, loyalty, or justice, when in reality our behavior is motivated by self-preservation, ambition, or desire. History is littered with examples of this. Take the rise of Julius Caesar. He was celebrated for his benevolence and strategic genius, yet his ascent was powered by a careful manipulation of perception, of presenting himself as the savior of the Roman people while consolidating power for himself. The Romans believed in the myth of the noble general, but the hidden law of human nature reveals a more complex truth. Even the seemingly virtuous are not immune to the impulses Machiavelli described. And this is where the lies we tell ourselves become most dangerous. We like to think that morality will guide our decisions. We imagine that loyalty, friendship, or love are strong enough to counter ambition. Yet time and again humans act contrary to these ideals. Consider the French Revolution. The revolutionaries proclaimed liberty, equality, and fraternity. They painted themselves as champions of justice. But when power was concentrated, the reign of terror demonstrated how easily fear, envy, and self-interest could override these ideals. The noble intentions, the moral posturing, they were largely illusions. Machiavelli teaches us that this is not exceptional, it is universal. Even in modern contexts, this hidden law is at play. Think of corporate scandals, political betrayals, or the quiet compromises we make in our daily lives. A CEO might claim to prioritize ethical leadership, yet insider trading, backroom deals, and power plays reveal the underlying truth. People are motivated by their own interests, and our minds are remarkably skilled at justifying actions that contradict our stated beliefs. The lie we tell ourselves is the most insidious because it is internal, invisible, and persistent. It shields us from discomfort while allowing the same impulses to guide our choices. Machiavelli also recognized that these self-deceptions are not merely personal failings, they are social tools. The ability to manipulate perception, both of oneself and of others, is a key strategy in human interactions. Leaders throughout history have mastered this. Winston Churchill, for example, presented an image of unshakable resolve during World War II. He projected confidence and moral clarity to inspire a nation. Yet privately, he harbored doubts, fears, and uncertainties. By managing the perception of strength, he harnessed the power of collective belief, while concealing the truth of his own human frailty. The lie, in this case, became a vehicle for survival, for influence, for shaping history itself. So how do we confront this hidden law? First, we must embrace radical self-honesty. To understand ourselves, we must examine not only what we say we believe, but also why we act as we do. Ask yourself, are my decisions guided by principle or by desire, fear, or convenience? Are the narratives I tell myself about my moral superiority masking self-interest? This is uncomfortable, but necessary. Machiavelli believed that wisdom begins with the clear-eyed recognition of reality, not with comforting illusions. Second, we must study human behavior in context, observing patterns in history, politics, and society. The past is a mirror that reflects the truths we often refuse to see in ourselves. From Caesar to Napoleon, from the French Revolution to the rise and fall of corporations, the same law recurs. Humans act in self-interest, and the stories we tell ourselves about virtue are often just that. Stories. To ignore this law is to be surprised, disappointed, or manipulated. To acknowledge it is to gain power, clarity, and foresight. Controlled deception, not to exploit others, but to navigate the illusions we encounter. If humans are naturally inclined to self-deception, both individually and collectively, then survival and success often require an understanding of this tendency. Leaders, thinkers, and even ordinary individuals who recognize the hidden law can anticipate the behaviors of others, manage expectations, and act strategically without being enslaved by naive ideals. And here's the most profound insight. Understanding the hidden law does not necessitate cruelty or amorality. On the contrary, it allows for authentic agency. By seeing ourselves as we are, we free ourselves from the illusions that distort judgment and action. We learn to differentiate between what is real and what is narrative, between true virtue and convenient pretense. Machiavelli's hidden law is not a prescription for manipulation. It is a lens for clarity, a tool to navigate a world governed by both truth and deception. In conclusion, the lies we tell ourselves are powerful because they are invisible, intimate, and persistent. They shape our beliefs, guide our actions, and structure our societies. Machiavelli, the keen observer of power and human nature, reveals that beneath the facades of virtue, loyalty, and morality lies an immutable truth. Humans are guided by self-interest, and our minds are skilled at rationalizing actions that serve it. By confronting this hidden law, studying its manifestations throughout history, and applying this understanding to our own lives, we gain not only insight but empowerment. So I invite you to reflect. What lies are you telling yourself? Which narratives have you accepted unquestioningly? And how might your understanding of Machiavelli's hidden law of human nature transform the way you perceive the world, your relationships, and even yourself? Because once you see the truth, you cannot unsee it, and in that revelation lies your greatest power.